we recognize a significant gap in terms of absence of an entity or organization dedicated to advancing net zero cities. The UAE pledged to reach net zero by 2050, and also Emirates of Dubai made a resolution to reach net zero target by 2050.
What are the targets in Dubai that you guys are actually aiming for?
We have a target of reaching 25% renewable penetration by 2030. We also have a target of reaching 100% renewable on the supply side by 2050.
What are the policy levers or what are the initiatives that you folks are doing in order to achieve that?
Achieving net zero require more than just reducing energy use and maybe making the grid more greener. It involves addressing challenging areas that contribute to the remaining of 60% of the goal.
This is the Innovation Civilization podcast, and mine is Wahid. Today, my guest is Mr. Faisal Ali Rashid, who's a senior director for the Dubai Supreme Council of Energy, which is the government body of Dubai tasked with energy policy and sustainable implementation of an energy growth policy whilst protecting the environment. He's also the chairman of the Advancing Net Zero Initiative and volunteering team of UAE. As you know, Dubai is quite an interesting city. It's a city that just works. A city that's grown 36x in terms of its GDP over the last 4 decades. It's also got very ambitious targets as Dubai aims to achieve 27% clean energy production by 2030 and 100% clean energy production by 2050. That's truly phenomenal targets. We're also joined by a friend of the podcast, Tushar Narula, who's a sustainability advisor and a climate change expert whose work has spanned different continents, industries, and top institutions like UC Berkeley, MIT, Harvard, and Imperial College, and so on and so forth. So without further ado, enjoy the episode and let's find out how Dubai is implementing its renewable energy policy. All right, Faisal, welcome to the Innovation Civilization podcast. What a great pleasure to have you here today, sir.
My pleasure to be on the podcast.
Brilliant. And Tushar, welcome to you as well.
Glad to be here. Thank you.
Brilliant. So Faisal, I was just looking at the eclectic career you've had, basically working with the Dubai Supreme Council of Energy and a lot of other things. To the listeners, especially us in the West who don't know you and know what you guys do, can you tell us a little bit more about yourself and how your journey has been this far?
Yeah, my name is Faisal Ali Rashid. I'm an engineer. I have graduated from University of Dayton, Ohio, USA in 1991. And I have extensive experience in oil and gas in ADNOC for maybe 16 years. And also I have worked in private sectors, glass manufacturing for a short period. And then in 2011, I have joined Dubai, and basically I'm responsible as a senior director of demand side management to look at the whole energy consumption spectrum in the Emirates of Dubai. We have launched lots of programs. We have a strategy also. We have a clear path also to pursue demand side management, which is basically part of the guiding principle, which is Dubai Clean Energy Strategy 2050. Within this, we have many flagships like circular economy strategy, integrated water strategies, and green strategy, and part of it is demand side management as well. So this is the general.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll come to some of the initiatives. So just for the common man like myself, who's not in the renewable energy world, what is exactly demand side management?
Yeah, demand side management is basically what is driving the supply side management. The economic growth occurs, especially in Dubai, as a growing city. As with the rapid economic development, I think the growth basically from the demand side management, pushing the commercial building and residential building to be
more efficient or
to grow in terms of numbers, in terms of size, in terms of footprint. So automatically you have to sustain this by building energy generation, water, electricity, as well as to ensure that fuel for heavy industries, for vehicles as well, are part of it. So the demand side management is basically, we're looking at it basically with priority in the Emirates of Dubai. The supply side is something that you just expand, let's say the power generation. If you're going to go renewable is also part of it. But then demand side management is more complex, looking into so many elements, different program, different way, whether it is design, whether it is operation, whether it is performance of the building, awareness as well. So many things, basically.
Is it basically making sure that demand is taken care of with good renewable energy, basically, the supply of that? So you're looking into the different aspects of that in the economy.
Yeah, the renewable energy is, talk about solar. A large power generation is part of the supply side, is not part of the demand side management. But if we're talking about solar rooftop, this is part of the demand side management. We consider it in
I see.
Dubai.
That's interesting. Let's peg our goalposts a little bit. And I was curious to know that there is the 2030 targets and there's a 2050 targets. So what are the targets in Dubai that you guys are actually aiming for, basically?
The supply side is sort of simple and easy in terms of given numbers. And we have a target of reaching 25% renewable penetration by 2030 renewable. As we speak today, we're around 15% share of renewable out of total energy mix.
I see.
We also have a target of reaching 100% renewable on the supply side by 2050.
I see. Wow.
The demand side management is basically to reduce the consumption as business as usual by 30% from the baseline, which is 2013. In 2030, so we're aiming to reduce the consumption by 30% in 2030. And as we speak today, we're close to basically a 16% reduction versus business as usual for electricity and 12.5 for water. So we are basically pursuing our journey to reach the 30% by 2030.
That's incredible, really. And I was just curious to know, in that case, these are very ambitious targets, right? So what are the kind of policy levers or what are the initiatives that you folks are doing in order to achieve that? Can you speak a little, basically, and expand on those a little bit?
In terms of policy, I would say achieving net zero require more than just reducing energy use and maybe making the grid more greener. It involves addressing challenging areas that contribute to the remaining of 60% of the goal. We know that solar on the penetration and then demand side management on the demand side will take care of, let's say, 40% of the carbon footprint, but the other 60 comes from other aspects like circularity and waste management, perhaps heavy transport, heavy industries, smart city concept, green funding model, for example, establishing financial framework to support a state-owned project. So if I bring this into local perspective, I would say Dubai approach to net zero transition would involve several key existing strategies, as I have mentioned in the beginning: clean energy strategy, demand side management strategy, integrated water strategy, green mobility strategy, as well as circular economy strategy. And we have tangible evidence of progress on the ground for renewable energy already. I think we have reached 2,600 megawatt solar, make 10% of the total energy mix. All electric and water meters are smart in Dubai. Cooling has reached 25% penetration, positioning Dubai to be a global leader in district cooling. I would also add to that over 15,000 buildings retrofitted in Dubai to improve energy efficiency and water efficiency. For transport, also more than 60,000 green vehicle, green basically.
Electric cars and stuff, right?
Electric hybrid and electric buses and so on. So these advancements are essential to make significant progress toward the net zero goal.
Mr. Rashid, just hearing your response here, we feel that regulators do play a very important role in driving change within industry and communities. And when we're looking at a city like Dubai that's at the forefront of transforming its energy sector and traditionally is known for its reliance on fossil fuels, how would you want to emphasize on some of these key policy implementation steps And how is DSC taking charge of transformation in the energy sector?
Yeah, I would say, from global perspective, I would say achieving net zero. If I talk about policy framework, I would say within the strategy, we have a target to reach 25% solar and then 100% solar by 2050. So these are some of the targets that were set by the Emirates. Then on top of that, when it comes to policy, I would say addressing green building code for new building to have a sort of more stringent design code to ensure that our future building are basically have less intensity when it comes to energy footprint, less intensity for waters as well. For existing building also, we have a scheme, you can call it policy scheme also, to ensure that financial solution are in hand to encourage basically building owners, whether commercial, whether residential. Commercial, I can say it could be shopping mall or hotel. They are able to retrofit and decarbonize their building because of the financial solution, because of the maturity of the retrofit market in the Emirates of Dubai, having private ESCO to execute these projects. So I think on that note, we have more than 30 accredited ESCO in the market to execute these projects. More than 15,000 equivalent building have been retrofitted in the Emirates. As policy level also for green transport, also we have a directive for government entities to include green vehicle out of their annual purchase, 10% in the past, and now it's 20%, and by 2030 it is 30% of the total sale to be electric or green vehicles. And we have also a target for the Emirate to reach 10% green vehicle out of total cars in Dubai for sedan, for small size or light duty cars. So these are some of the things that I'm sharing with you.
Yeah, it's quite interesting, actually. I'm just curious. So this is something that we have an issue with in the UK and US especially. So for instance, in California, you have a lot of these green building codes where you have lots of regulations around, okay, how to build a building, right? And often what happens is that it increases the time and cost to build these buildings. So something that's supposed to take 1 year ends up taking 5 years because of the bureaucratic red tape. I was just curious, Faisal, is that the same for you guys in Dubai? Like, how do you get around that? Are people building fast and efficiently while being carbon friendly? Do you know how that sort of goes?
I would start by mentioning that in 2011, I recall, we have upgraded the building code and we made it we made a mandate for government building basically to use the new code, which is more stringent. So we call it like a trial period. And then this was implemented for all building in Dubai in 2014. All building to use the new code. And in 2000, if I'm saying it correctly, in 2019, we have transformed the building code into labeling aspect, having some sort of ranking like gold and silver. If you're asking about whether it will take longer to build more sustainable building, I think based on experience, if you drive it gradually, I think you'll not have a huge disruption. You try to transform all the petrol cars into electric in 1 year. That is not possible because you'll have a disruptive economy. So if you do it gradually, I think we'll be able to breathe as government, as responsible people, to ensure that we are gradually decarbonizing our building, gradually improving the efficiency of the building, upgrading the code.
That makes sense.
Definitely. No, I think we got into two key levers here. First is policy and then green building regulations, which really connects closely to some steps that the Supreme Council is taking. The DSM strategy featuring 11 key program themes, I think, is a great policy measure here to address different aspects of energy and water efficiency. In your view, which of these programs have shown most progress so far, and some of the areas that you feel still need some significant work to meet Dubai's ambitious targets?
Yeah, I think it's an excellent question. We have ongoing DSM strategy activation since 2013, and we have made two updates basically to the strategy, including adding to the program. And the last update, we have added an additional program. We also added mobility as well into the DSM program. So it's not just water and electricity. Out of total 11 program that we have, or 12 program, I would say building regulation and building retrofit program and district cooling are basically the one that are progressing more aggressively, and also adding more saving also to the whole DSM strategy. I'll give you some content as well. Within the building regulation, the Green Building Code was, I think the number of buildings that are in compliance with the new code are 55,000 since 2014, which has started. More than 55,000 buildings are in compliance with the new code, which was announced in 2014. Current code is, I would say, 20% better than the baseline or the previous code, with an average intensity of, let's say, 2 to 250 kilowatt hour per square meter per year. We plan in 2026 to also, as an emirate, we'll try to also update the building code in 2026 to make it 35 improvement from the baseline. And this is basically something that we do every 5 years, I would say. Every 5 years, we update the code. And the second important program, I would say, building a retrofit program or building the decarbonization. So in this program, significant advancement in government building retrofit has happened. On top of that, growing solar photovoltaic also is also being implemented. There are more than 600 megawatt, solar basically installed on houses and commercial building. There are more than 30 accredited ESCO, private ESCOs in Dubai are qualified to execute these projects. Over 15,000 building equivalent have been retrofitted, and more than 1,500 government buildings are set for completion by end of 2024, saving around 709 gigawatt hour of electricity and 462 million imperial gallon of water annually. Last program is district cooling. I would say notable increase in district cooling has happened. Dubai is a global leader in district cooling penetration and share. It is now account for 25% of Dubai cooling capacity, and more than 50% if we include local centralized efficient cooling in the Emirates. The efficiency of this district cooling plant is around 0.85 kilowatt hour per refrigerant ton across all plant, and our target to reach 0.84 by 2030. So these are basically general in terms of which are the most efficient program.
Interesting. I think that we've covered an interesting side here of how policy levers are extremely important, and then going towards implementation. I think a side that is connecting to these two is also financial mechanisms. So they're always crucial in driving large scale sustainability initiatives. And I'm curious more to learn about how the Supreme Council is integrating any financial incentives, mechanisms to support this policy, as well as if so, what's the impact that they have had on the market already?
the Supreme or the Vice Supreme Council of Energy has effectively used financial mechanism to support DSM program. And some of the key approaches that we had is the incentive program offering saving and subsidies to encourage the adoption of energy efficient technology and conservation measures in different areas such as electric vehicle charging points, such as designated parking for EV, solar rooftop program by allowing a customer to connect to electric grid via net metering methodology. And also we have incentive for the building retrofit program. On top of that, I think the public-private partnership decree and law have helped government and also have helped the private sector to work together toward executing huge project, which basically we're talking about billion of investment. If you talk about the supply solar energy ongoing project, which is equivalent to 4,000 megawatt, is more than around 40 billion dirham investment for these to execute this project. On top of that, in terms of incentive, we have launched also an award recognition program for outstanding contribution, and we included both contribution from government as well as from private sectors. So just lately, beginning of the year, we had this program and we have celebrated the achievement of the program, whether individual or company. So we had 26 category award, half for government and half for private sectors, including individual champion. I think these help pushing forward, incentivizing people. On top of that, we have green financing for building retrofit using green bond to provide capital for large energy and water efficiency projects. So these are some of the incentives.
Yeah, that's quite interesting, actually. And we talked about the finance part and we talked about policy. So Faisal, I think one thing the Western audience would be quite curious to know is basically that how you implement the policies. I think you mentioned about these EXCOs. So if I understand correctly, and correct me if I summarize this accurately, but you've got the Dubai Supreme Council of Energy, which I guess sets the strategy, right? And then you've got these EXCOs that you mentioned, which implement these policies. And is that it? Are there any other institutions in between that sort of help coordinate the implementation? What does that sort of look like? And maybe if you could speak to how these EXCOs work as well, that'll be pretty interesting.
Looking at it from the macro level, the strategy, the EXCO is basically one program, which comes under building retrofit program. In the beginning, we have established what we call it energy service contract model, help the market grow and to basically protect the right of private EXCO when they execute the project, as well as the right of building owner. So that was the first step. So we had the mention who are the key players. So we have the Supreme Council of Energy looking at it from the macro level, high level. And then we have the RSP, the Regulatory Supervisory Bureau, also looking at the regulation.
What do they do? Regulations, okay.
There is a contract model that private EXCO and also the building owner have to enter. Building owner could be anybody, could be owner of government building, could be owner of a hotel, could be owner of a shopping mall or any commercial building. So they enter into a contract, and then of course this contract model is different than normal EPC project. It has a basically attractive package that the building owner will not pay any upfront advancement payment. It is more pays itself from the saving, could be determined, could be 5 years or 6 years. I think after the completion of the project, the saving based on the earlier recommendation could be 30%, could be 25% based on the earlier audit. I think from the saving, if let's say a big building is consuming 2 million dirham per year, then you have the reduction of 30% based on the technical measure that have been executed. Then it comes to million or so. The 500,000 will go to the private EXCO. In 5 years, they'll make up their money, and then the building owner will benefit because the building will be more efficient.
I think I've always seen Dubai embrace innovation, and this also cascades into policy. Believe that Shams Dubai stands out as a pioneering initiative in the Middle East, and it's also a part of the DSM strategy. I think one question is, how does Shams model of integrating solar panels into the urban landscape stand out? Just an elaboration on how Shams is influencing the cultural mindset towards renewable energy in Dubai.
So we're looking at it like completing the story. You don't start decarbonizing a building by installing the solar rooftop at the beginning. First, you take all the measures, all the equipment, all the mechanical measure to ensure the building is efficient, like insulation, like air tightening, like mechanical, civil, and electrical, and also water as well. Once you complete all the measure, I think the solar rooftop comes on top of it to make the building consume less energy. So within this, I think in the region, I think we're the only body as an emirate who has a regulation for solar rooftop. So we have a regulation, we have a solar rooftop market as well. So there is a full system which is handled by Dubai Electricity and Water Authority. So any consumer, any building owner can basically install. Following this rule, there is a system, like a no objection system that you have to have pre-qualified. There is a coordination with different authority like by municipality, DEWA to execute the project. And lately, I think there used to be a cap, like 1 megawatt especially for industrial entities who wants to install solar. So now, just recently, we have waived the cap so they can install up to their capacity. If an industrial entity has an installed capacity, so they can install solar freely up to their maximum installed capacity. So there is no sort of capping. So this is in general how the roof is happening. And it's, of course, the system is net metering. Basically, the solar rooftop is whatever credit an owner can get is basically goes to the net metering and then goes to the grid. And then the owner will be credited the following month in terms of reducing their bill and electricity bill and so on.
That's quite interesting, actually. That's quite smart. I want to transition, Faisal, into just on preparation for this episode. I was reading a book by Bill Gates, who I think wrote something around how to avoid a climate disaster, right? I think John Doerr also wrote a book on this, Speed and Scale. Both alluded to the fact that technological innovation is very important to get us to the net zero target that's there. Apart from the business side, the policy side, just like purely tech innovation is super important, right? Clean, cheap energy. I was just curious to know from your perspective, what is Dubai doing in terms of technology and innovation specifically? Do you guys have like R&D investments into specific tech? Yeah, we alluded to electric cars and stuff, but I was wondering, is there anything native to Dubai when it comes to tech and innovation in terms of the technical side that you guys are interested in and investing in?
Yeah, I think it's a very good question. We're looking at it from both angles. I think R&D basically, will handle some of the, I would say, not mature technology. We usually, as an authority who's responsible for setting energy strategy, we will not include less mature or not
experimental tech and
experimental pilot technology in our strategy. Okay, once it reaches maturity, I think it'll be part of the strategy and execute it. So I'll tell you a little bit about it. If you talk about notable progressive development at the macro level, we have what we call Greenfield Solar Park, a huge, one of the largest in the world. And I think it will reach 5,000 megawatt by 2030. And as we speak, it is 2,600 megawatt. And the ongoing project is close to 4,000 megawatt. This includes the CSP, which basically CSP technology, which which got features of energy storage. The solar works when the sun is up, but then if you have CSP, you can also have 12 hours of storage. So it gives you 24 hours energy generation. And of course, in terms of technology, we have diversified energy source. Beside the solar farm, we have solar rooftop technology which we're using. We have a pilot of hydropower close to 250 megawatt. It's near completion now. So waste energy as well is already commissioned 200 megawatt. If you talk about innovation, is not only, I would say, technical measure, also financial measure. So we have a public partnership to ensure that we have innovative financial solution to pursue this project. In terms of technological advancement, I would say the city promote also, this is from policy point of view, promote car sharing, autonomous vehicle, mass transport as well, the expansion of EV charging infrastructure, encouraging biking and walking also by improving the infrastructure and connectivity, city connectivity. I would say other technologies as well linked to desalinated water and water recycling. The water generation plant includes RO technology, reverse osmosis, which as we speak today is close to 15% out of total desalinated water capacity. And the target is 42% by 2030 to use RO, which basically complement the solar energy expansion. Because of this technology is happening based on the combined cycle with gas turbine. So as we go away from gas generation, we have to find a solution. So RO technology will basically complement the expansion of solar. On top of that, if you talk about technology as well, as I mentioned before, all the meters, whether electricity and water, are smart. Around 2 million meters total in the Emirates is all are smart basically. So we can see the real-time data, okay, for better management and energy efficiency. All these things that I have mentioned also, they have increased, they played a big factor into rising green jobs and energy efficiency and building retrofitting and clean technology. I didn't talk about the pilot project. So we have executed, so as Emirate, we have executed many pilot projects, including energy storage of 1.2 megawatt, sodium sulfur lithium battery system. There are some net zero building also in the Emirates. Hydrogen also fuel has also been experimented also for both power and electricity. On top of that, also the circularity initiative also is huge on our as part of our priority as well, to ensure that the circularity, we're moving away from the linear economy to circular economy.
That's quite interesting. That's quite a lot of initiatives you mentioned there. So I was wondering, just zooming out a little bit, basically, what would you say that the rest of the world can learn from Dubai's sort of initiatives? What would you say is special or different when it comes to how Dubai sets out these net zero policies and executes on them?
Yeah, I think there are things that we can learn from other cities, and there are things that also we can also share with the other. I would say when we started the strategy, I think we set the target and roadmap. We have looked at the demand side management. We looked at the supply side. We have deep knowledge in recycling water because of the challenge. We don't have access to river. We don't have access to rain. So we have really good infrastructure. This is something that we can share with others. I think many also have approached the Emirates in this type of aspect, whether it is next door Emirates, whether it is other neighboring countries also. So we shared this thing, I think this measure with them. In terms of what we can grasp from others, I would say smart city aspect. I think this is something we can learn more or grasp more from cities like Netherlands and Sweden, as we read they have done a lot of measures to improve making the city more like smart. I would say waste management as well, waste to energy also. This is something that we have already, I think, taken from some of the city who have started this initiative before us. So this is something that we also were proud, pleased that we can learn from other. There are things also we could not take, like wind technology, because of the type of climate that we have. It is not viable to use wind. The other thing also we shared with other is district cooling, because no city in the world has more than 25% district cooling share out of total cooling in the Emirates. So this is something that...
Sorry, what is that? District
cooling.
cooling? What is that? Sorry.
Yeah, it's the cooling being provided by a plant, district cooling plant, whether it is a shopping mall, whether it is an urban planning section that basically takes its cooling from the plant. So the efficiency of the district cooling is like 40 to 45% better than conventional cooling if you use air cooling or on top of the roof of a building. So the efficiency is 1.5 kilowatt hour per refrigerant ton. If it's district cooling, it is close to 0.85. So this is huge in the Emirates, and we have the infrastructure. It's 25% using the plant. And then if you talk about local district cooling plant, it is around 50%. So the share of efficient cooling is huge in the Emirates.
I see. That's quite interesting, really. And again, just like thinking about the world, basically. So I think we had COP, the summits, and the targets that are there. And I think there has been generally in the world a sort of frustration that the different countries in the world are not doing enough and we're not transitioning fast enough. What's your sort of take on the COP targets as well as the efforts from the different countries in the world, including Dubai, basically?
Yeah, I would say in terms of concern or criticism of COP and the global net zero transition, I think it's understandable, particularly given that the urgency of climate action is on the swing. So there is a complexity and challenges, of course, and the way shaped by diverse economic and political and resources factor. So this affect definitely for countries to move quickly toward action. But I can say action to accelerate the transition in the UAE and the MENA region include strengthen the strategy and policy implementation. Like government in the UAE and MENA region need to enforce more ambitious climate policies. This involves setting a clearer target, developing detailed action plan, and ensuring effective monitoring and enforcement is happening. For instance, the UAE leadership commitment in implementing a renewable energy project is seen by many, having large solar project in Abu Dhabi and Dubai as well. So these sets strong example. On top of that, also enhancing regional cooperation, collaborate among countries and cities, I would say, can drive faster progress. Sharing initiative within existing international platform such as ARENA, C40, the Green Building Council, I think this can help scale up successful strategies and innovation. Also, I think investment in technology and innovation, prioritizing investment in new technologies such as smart city, smart building, green hydrogen, energy storage, and waste to energy system. These can accelerate the transition. I think the UAE focus on these technology strongly, and this demonstrates commitment to advancing toward sustainable solution. And I mentioned before the PPP model, which is expanding on the public-private
Partnerships, yeah.
To strengthen I think this will strengthen the partnership between the public and the private, and it can mobilize additional financial resources and technical expertise to do this project in clean energy and also in building a decarbonization aspect. Increasing awareness and education will not stop as well. Promoting climate literacy and sustainable practices among business and public This can drive greater commitment, greater community support and engagement. Yes, so the UAE and MENA region can address these concerns, overcome the barriers, and expedite the transition toward net zero future.
Amazing. I think we've been having an engaging discussion on how Dubai is driving change through strategic policies, incentivizing industry action, and I think it also triangulates on the role of communities. And this is where we also get your other role as advancing net zero volunteering team's head, which really aims to accelerate decarbonization across the UAE. What do you think communities can play a role, particularly the youth, in transitioning to net zero? And how does your team engage and empower them?
Yeah, I will just give a little bit of background. In the UAE, we recognize, especially based on the commitment that the Emirates has made, has pledged also to reach net zero by 2050, and also Emirates of Dubai made a resolution to reach net zero target by 2050. So we recognize a significant gap in terms of like absence of an entity or organization dedicated to advancing net zero cities. So this recognition or realization led to the creation of the Advancing Net Zero volunteering group, consisting of board member and also tens of volunteers. So community, especially young people, are essential in the transition to net zero. Our Advancing Net Zero volunteering team engage and empower them, and I would say in the following area: in education. For example, we hold workshops and events to teach young people about the importance of reducing carbon emission and how they can help, they can contribute. Hands-on experience. We involve youth in real projects like local sustainability effort and clean energy initiative, giving them practical experience and since research and white paper. We engage with experts and youth to produce research paper, survey in different profiles such as building, green transport, and industries as well. On top of that, leadership role also is important. We provide workshop, training, and support to help young people take on leadership role in the future in sustainability project, preparing them to drive the change. Also, we try to work with school and university to include sustainability in their program, in their curriculum, and encourage students to learn or to lead their own projects. So by involving and empowering young people, we can drive faster progress toward net zero future.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I think I was just looking at the statistics that more than 50% of the UAE population are either Gen Z or millennials, right? So that's a huge young population who's going to inherit a lot of these policies, right? So that's quite important to get that message right for our future generations and everything.
Indeed.
Brilliant. With that note, I think we've run out of time today, but Faisal Ali Rashid, thank you so much for joining us today on the ICB podcast, and all the best with your initiatives. And thank you very much.
Pleasure. I have enjoyed the podcast and hope we do it again. Thank you very much.
Brilliant. Thanks a lot.
For giving me the opportunity.
Awesome.